What's up, metalheads? My name's Jamie. This is the Blades and EDC channel. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And today we are going to do another episode of Versus. But in this episode of Versus, we're going to have a threesome. Anybody down for a threesome? Please don't answer that question. But I've never done a three-way Versus before with knives. But today we're going to do a three-way Versus and talk about the Shark Lock, the SNECX lock, and the Atlas lock. And, you know, there's not a whole lot of difference between them, to be completely honest with you. They all three work off of coil springs. They're all three extremely strong locking mechanisms. I think two are probably stronger than, than one of them. And let's talk about the action of them. This isn't about the ergos. This isn't about the weight. This isn't about anything. It's about the functionality of the locking mechanism using a coil spring. And we'll start with the Shark Lock, right? Everyone knows the Shark Lock. This one has not been modified, by the way. This was bone stock. I do have another one here that has been modified, which changes the detent and everything and how it works. So we're not going to use that one. We're going to use this one that has not been modified. And the placement of the lock, or the mechanism for the lock, for this one's perfect in my opinion. It really is. It's in the perfect place, but it does have a spongy feel to it, right? There's no detent on any of these knives. They don't work like a traditional detent, and they all feel spongy. This one's really spongy. Do the Atlas lock by Cold Steel next. This is the Cold Steel Engage, and this one here, this one feels good. It really does feel good. The action does, the deployment does. Again, it's spongy and soft, but I think I prefer the deployment of this one better, but the close, I prefer the Shark Lock better, for a couple reasons. This one's on washers too, so I should keep that in mind. These two are on bearings, so this is going to feel different. This is the only one that's on washers. But the placement of the Atlas lock, it's kind of far back, right? And when I look at it, I'm trying to figure out why, because they got all this extra space up here. Maybe, I don't know who came out with the lock first. Let me say that right off the bat. I don't know who came out with this lock first, whether it was Demko or Cold Steel. I have no idea, but they could have moved this up closer to the blade if they wanted to, because the spring is, I think they could. It looks like they could. Actually, they can't because of the way they'd run that stop pin right there. So that stop pin right there is stopping this lock from going any further forward. See that? See that second stop pin right there? That's preventing this from going further forward. That's probably what's locking the spring in there. And then you have the SNECX lock. And this one definitely has, out of the three, I would say this one has the best action. The deployment and the close. But it has an issue. Couple issues. Number one, it's extremely uncomfortable. This little, I'm not even going to call it a tab. I don't know what you call it. There's no jimping or anything. It's kind of sharp on your index finger. It's not terrible, but it's kind of sharp. But then it has this issue here to where the lock will actually pull out, right? And I had someone tell me, oh, they did that so it's easier to clean. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. Because that opening like that does nothing for me cleaning this knife. I can clean this knife with that in place from under here with a Q-tip just as easy as I could if it does that, right? And this is, for me, it took some getting used to. So I didn't keep doing that, right? I would go to pull it back, and every now and then, like every 3 or 4 times, I would pull it out by accident. It came out wrong. But I would, pull it out from behind the stop pin. Basically, it hooks underneath that stop pin right there. And that little groove right there in the blade, or that little cutout right there, this goes down inside that hole and locks the blade in place. And you can actually see this one through the hole here. See that? Well, There we go. So you can actually see how it locks in right there. It doesn't even lock in completely smooth though, which is surprising. It looks like it's just barely kind of catching. It's not going all the way down inside the cutout, as you can see right there. Hopefully that focuses for me. So you see how it kind of catches. If you look at the blade right here, it's kind of catching that corner right there, and it's not going down inside that hole, which is what I think it is supposed to be doing, but it doesn't. As you can see there's a lot of space in there where it's not locking in properly. It still feels incredibly strong, no failure issues or anything, but it just looks like, I don't know, it just doesn't quite line up. And honestly, that tells me also that this piece could be a little bit longer, right? The locking piece on the back could be a little bit longer, which would make it fall right into that slot. And by it being longer, that may prevent that, right? That little tiny, because it just barely comes out. If it had that little bit of additional right there, which would lock it into that hole perfectly, or that cutout perfectly, this thing probably wouldn't come out. It's just a tiny bit that it can come out, and it just looks like there's space there for it to go further forward. And for me, that makes this one, although I think it has the best action, right? I think it feels the best on the deployment and the close, as long as you don't pull back too far. It makes this one last on the list for me, right? And then we have these two. So this is going to be third place between these coil spring locks. All work very similar to each other, but you know. The Engage. Now, the Engage with the Atlas lock. This one, I hated it when I first got it. I got to admit, I hated it. It just felt so awkward. But the more I've played with it, the more comfortable I've got with it, the more I've liked it. It grows on you. Plus, with this one, you don't even have to reach back right here. You can use your thumb, which I think may have been the intent. And the blade does not cut you, as you can see, where the blade hits my finger right there. It does not cut. It's not going to come down and cut you. So I think that may have been what the intent was. So you can just pull it back with your thumb. As far as the deployment between these two, this one is the most, the shark lock is the most, I don't know, it feels the most loose, right? It has the most, makes the most sounds, it just doesn't feel as tight as these two do. Everything in here, it feels like there's a lot more tolerance in this than there is in these. The tolerances are really tight in these two, and you can feel it in the action. Obviously, this one's going to feel very different because it's on washers, but it's also extremely lightweight. Extremely lightweight. It's hard for me to make a decision on this, and I'm probably the oddball out on this, right? Because I would think if people really, I'm just so shocked that they're not doing aftermarket parts for the Engage like they are the 80-20.5, right? I understand why they went on this. This isn't that kind of knife, right? It's not, you know, there's not a whole lot you could do for this knife. To where with this, the aftermarket, it's endless opportunities for this knife, and I really think there should be the same for this knife. I really do, because this is a great knife. It really is a great knife, and this is S35V blade steel. It has the better blade steel than this one, also much better. It costs less than this one. Yeah, this is my number one of the three, which has totally surprised me, shocked the hell out of me, to be completely honest with you, because I love the 80-20.5. Now, with that being said, there will be some things coming for this knife to change it and give it an actual detent. Now, if I were to put this one in the mix that has the, you know, magnetic detent in it, now this is number one by far, by far. But buying them the way they come, the way you get them out of the box, this is my order, best to worst. 1, 2, 3, and you know, action-wise, this one's better than this one. It feels better than the 80-20.5. But the fact that the lock pulls out like that is just, I don't know, just bothersome. And then you got this, which doesn't have anything to do with the lock, but the way this pocket clip is done, it's just not good. It's such a good-looking knife, though. You know, it's such a disappointment. This one's one of the most disappointing knives I've had in hand since I've started doing this, honestly, because I love the look of this knife. I was so excited about this knife. Then I get it in hand, and I'm like, it's just a big disappointment. It really is a big disappointment. So, yeah. If anyone else out there owns all 3 of these or 2 of these, any combination, comment below. Put which one is your number 1, which one is your number 2, and if you own all 3, put your number 1, number 2, number 3. Put it in the comments below. Let me know. For me, the Engage is 1, the 80-20.5 is 2, and the Vision R, it comes in last place. Although I think the Vision R is the best looking of the 3. As far as action and everything else, and lockup and everything, the Engage for the win, which just shocked me. This is not my knife. This is not my knife. And actually, none of these are my knife. This knife is Jason's. This knife is Jason's. This knife is Julio's. This one's for the knife sale, by the way. But I got to buy one of these. I got to get one. And you can get the budget version of these, too. The S35VN version with the 3-inch blade is only like $130. And you can get a budget version with comparable still to the AUS 10 for like $65 or something like that. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. I just wish they made a lot of aftermarket stuff for this knife. I don't know why this one didn't catch on like this one did. I'm so surprised. If somebody knows more about why that is, am I missing something on this knife? Comment below and let me know. Why hasn't this not caught on in the aftermarket like this? Or is it a cold steel thing? Cold steel won't give up the, the CAD files so people can make scales and all the aftermarket parts for it. I really don't know. Minimal hardware too. I mean, look, 2 screws, pivot screw. That's it. The rest of these are just pins. Yeah, pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next one.